Hello, everybody. Ziona here again, coming at you with some more Warcraft Rumble PvP-oriented content. Believe it or not, this is not the My Favorite My Little Pony character episode. This is just what I like to wear on, is it Wednesday? I think it's Wednesday. It's all a blur to me. I think it's Wednesday. Who knows? But this is just my outfit. Deal with it. I like it. I'm comfortable. I'm wearing my little unicorn today. So today we're going to be discussing the Beast faction of all things. It was vaguely requested. I know it wasn't long since I put out the last video. You might see me on occasion like looking off camera here. That's because my show notes are above, because this is going to be a long conversation. I don't have the memory to sit and recall 30 minutes of Beast discussion. But the Beast faction is a very, very solid faction. A lot of its cards are kind of designed to fit everywhere. They have a lot of uses in a lot of different decks. Good faction all around. Lots of great cards you're going to want to pick up in here. We'll get into that at the end of the episode. Just some notes before we really dive into this. When it comes to Hogger and Charlga Razorflank, I always forget that stupid character's name. She's garbage anyways, don't build a deck with her. But if you're gonna, in reference to all of these cards, when it comes to Hogger Cycle and when it comes to Charlga Razorflank, assume that all of these cards can fit in those decks. They build almost strictly Beast decks because they really play well together. Things like Raptors or Prowler, for example, buffing all the other Beast cards. That's so just assume when we're talking about these decks, and when I do mention the decks that these cards can fit in, that they almost all can fit in the Hogger and Charlga decks. So I'm not going to be mentioning them. Just keep that in your head. Basically, if you want to do Hogger Cycle, pick 4 good Beast cards, 2 spells, and then off to like 5,000 trophies. Good deck. So yeah, we're going to start today. We're going to just dive right into it. So I'm going to be checking out my notes here as we go. First up, we're looking at Angry Chickens. I love this card. It's just a feels good card. You got like 100 chickens running around. It's a 2-drop. It's really fast running down the lane. It melts single target ground base units. Your tanks, Molten Giant gets smoked by it. It doesn't do good in A-Bomb because A-Bomb's got that cleave. It beats up most of the Horde-oriented cards, like that stupid Swift Hoof Tauren or whatever it's called. What else do we got written down here? It's probably the hardest counter to Molten Giant and General Dragosath in the game. Assuming they don't have splash behind the cards, but it's pretty good. We're going to jump into the talents that you're going to want to take on this card if you're running it. The only real solid option is called Sacrifice. It's adorable. Sorry, that's the option if you're running only Beast deck. Basically what it does is it allows your other Beast cards to chomp one of the chickens and heal itself. So if you're running solo Beast and Hogger, Sacrifice is hands down the best that you're going to want to take. But if you're putting chickens in place of like a Harpy alternative or something like that, you're putting her in a deck, or putting them in a deck that isn't Beast specific. There is, what's it called? Furious Fowl will be your alternative. It just gives you a flat DPS increase. Basically, that's all it is. Some of the decks that you're going to see this card in is going to include your Murloc Swarm, your Grom Bloodlust, Karen Bruiser, and your Baron Swarm. That's what I've got written down. Those are the most common decks that you're going to see this card in. Good card, good solid card, nice and cheap, 2-drop, and it helps out with all those tough cards. It's a good ground-based Harpies, basically. Nothing wrong with this card. Fits in a ton of different decks. So hopping into the next card. I know we're moving fast, but these videos are quite long, and there's a lot of cards in the Beast faction as well. Next up, we have Gnoll Brute. My God, this is such a good card. It is a 3-drop. It's like a beefy tank. It has a ton of health. I think I've got it written down here. It's 1 gold more than your Ghoul, and Ghoul is super popular. You run Ghoul in almost everything, but it's 1 more gold than Ghoul. It's got AoE attacks like Cleave for ground units, so it's even better than Ghoul in that aspect. It costs 1 more than Ghoul, has about the same, if not a little bit less HP, but the amount of damage it does is almost double that of Ghoul, and it's AoE. This card is fantastic. It fits in almost every deck. It fits anywhere that you would play Ghoul, basically. Very, very, very good card. Probably one of the best that Beast has to offer. Let's take a look. We have the talents. I can't remember the names of the talents. I just know what they do. If you're looking at the talents, actually, any of his talents are a viable choice. They're all fantastic. If I had to choose one, life or death, I would choose the talent called Rabid. It just makes him a lower gold cost, realistically, and makes him better than Ghoul in almost in every circumstance because he is that cheaper card. But, I mean, as I said, legitimately all 3 are great talent options. So that's more or less Ghoul out of the way, but let's get into his decks, I suppose. Obviously, it's going to fit your Chargon Hogger. I mentioned that I'm not really going to talk about them too much because these cards will fit those decks, basically all of these cards. Just stick away from the trash ones and you'll be fine. But those two aside, what are we looking at? Almost any deck you'd consider Ghoul, you would put Hogger in place of Ghoul, basically. It's a very similar card, well, just slightly different. It would fit into Thalnol's control. Any Baron Rivendare deck, you've got Grom, the Grom Bloodlust decks. Fantastic in that because that deck just plays a bunch of bruisers anyways. Good in Cairn decks and Tyrion mid-range as well, which, I mean, you're not going to see it often in Tyrion. There are better options in my opinion, but it can fit in a Tyrion deck. Like, this card is fantastic. Probably the best of Beast for sure. I got a lazy eye because I'm tired. Sorry guys, I don't normally look like a goblin, but when I get sleepy, my one eye is like, doesn't want to stay awake. It's like fucking, pardon the language, but I haven't slept in forever. Anyways, next up, oh my goodness, everyone's favorite sadisting, see how sleepy I am. Everybody's favorite sadisting squawking squabs, the Harpies. Harpies they're such a good card. It is a 3-drop card, which is relatively affordable for what it does. It's flying. It's really hard to get rid of. It smokes ground units, so if they don't have splash that can deal with it, you're just gonna disintegrate like a Molten Giant for 3. Like, it's a great card all around. It's in the meta. It's in practically, like, everybody likes running this card. It's just all around fantastic. So the talent that you want to take on this card is Trinket Collector. It's probably the strongest one. That's the one that allows your Harpies to walk around and collect the gold nodes. Very, very good talent, because if you can manage 3 gold out of mid from your Harpies, the way I like to think of it is you're realistically playing Harpies for free, because you're getting 3 gold because you played that card that you wouldn't have had it before anyways, right? That's just an interesting way of looking at it. It is probably the most gold efficient talent. Let's go see. I think there is another one. Yeah, so it does have another option if you can't get a hold of that one. And that would be Talon Dive. Talon Dive is just, it increases their initial burst. I think they do double damage or something like that for the first hit. So since they die so quick to Chain Lightning, being able for that first attack to do double damage is very, very, very solid for this card. And the card's just good in general, even talentless, it's just a good card. Let's go into some decks. Most notably, everybody knows that Harpy plays into Blackhand Flying. Blackhand Flying being like an S tier, very, very, very good deck right now. What else? Let's go see. Yeah, you can see it in Sneed Face. I play it in my Sneed deck, actually, and it's fantastic. More so as a defensive defensive unit, but because they're so hard to get rid of without a spell or a ranged unit. But I use them on defense for Sneak Cycle. You'll see him in Dracosath Elemental, Grom Bloodlust. Dracosath Elemental is a physical threat because you need at least one. That deck runs, obviously, heavy elemental cards. Sorry, I can't stop touching my face. I'm super sleepy. I'm really weird when I'm tired, hence the ridiculous outfit. But the card plays well in a lot of different decks. All around fantastic card. You won't regret picking it up, so consider Harpies. It's a good one. Next up on the list, we're looking at Murloc Tidehunters. I don't like this card, honestly, but it's a cheap 2-drop card, ranged cycle. It's like a squad card, so it's pretty good. It has some pretty serious single target DPS. There's like a couple of them, but they always hit the same target anyways, so I refer to it as single target DPS. They move really fast across the map, but unfortunately they're kind of like outclassed. I don't feel they're a very good card. The bonuses, they are a beast card technically, so they can take advantage of the eating the chicken kind of thing if you're running out on your chickens, but you should if you're running a beast deck. But they get smoked by like Safe Pilot. I know Safe Pilot's 3, but it's got the initial damage, and then it's AoE ranged for way more DPS for 1 extra mana or 1 extra gold, and then it's just all around outclassed by the Alliance Griffin Rider. That card is just straight up better for the same cost. So, I mean, other than the little beast logo in the corner, this card isn't my favorite. All the talents are kind of lackluster. There's one talent where it gives them a shield. I think a safety bubble gives them an immunity to getting hit with chain lightnings and dying right out the gates. But I don't know. I'm not huge on this card. I don't think it's that good. It can be built basically in both the beast decks, and that's it. But there's just better options, so I wouldn't bother with this one. Up next, we got actually a pretty unique card to beast, and that's Polymorph. This is a really cool card. Basically, it only costs 3. It's gonna turn everything into sheeps in a small circle on the map, and then it's gonna remove all of their resistances. Sorry, I'm having a brain fart. Basically, like in tandem with other spells, Polymorph becomes a quasi-living bomb. If you want to Polymorph Holy Nova or Polymorph Chain Lightning, you're gonna do so much damage to even tanky units, just because they have no resistances anymore, and it's really big. There's some obvious decks that this card plays in, but we'll get to that in a second. We're gonna hit the talents. It's a really good spell to have for sure. I wouldn't build it because it's so niche, but it is pretty solid. The best talents in my case is Golden Fleece. In my opinion, it's gonna make 1 golden sheep, and if you kill it, it gives you a gold back. Theoretically making this a 2-drop card, which makes it more gold efficient, which is always really important. Fucking Red Bulls. It's a Red Bull heartburn, I'm telling you. But yeah, it's basically making it 2-drop. It's making you more gold efficient, which is everything in this game. There is another option in Exploding Sheep, good into Swarm decks or against Swarm decks, mind you. Basically, the things that you kill as sheep explode for more damage. Always good. It makes it even closer to Living Bomb. That would be your other option if you don't want to take Golden Fleece or you don't have it, because getting polymorph stuff on the grid sometimes seems quite rare. I don't know why. Some of the decks that it would fit, it's not used super frequently. I mean, aside from Hogger Cycle, it'll fit in a Hogger Cycle, and what's her name? Stupid pig girl. But most notably, this deck is in very high ranked Elemental Dracosath decks. Because you do all that elemental damage, you're already removing resistances, and that's the whole premise of the deck. This card fits that deck perfectly. So if you are building an Elemental Dracosath, you're going to want to have Polymorph anyways. Lets the splashes decimate tanks and stuff like that. Jaina's spell control will run this card very often, and it's a pretty popular choice in Thalmos control. I don't run it, but I used to. It's actually pretty good. Next up on the list, we have Prowler. Man, this is a pretty unique card, just like Polymorph for the Beast faction, and it is super oppressive and super annoying card to deal with. It's a 3-drop single target card, and it does absolutely crazy DPS considering it's a 3-drop. Its damage is absolutely absurd. It also has exceptionally high base health, almost on par with the Gnoll. Let's go. It's got 940 base health. Sorry, almost the same as Ghoul, which is pretty impressive for a 3-cost that does that much damage. Overall, fantastic card. Super versatile. It's going to fit in a lot of decks. Another great one in a Beast. This is such a good faction. So many great cards. Just such a pain in the butt to deal with this card. The number one talent that everybody who takes Prowler should be taking. I got the name written down here. It's called Pack Leader. This is like, they have some other good talents, but this talent is so far beyond the other ones that you should never be running any other talent. Well, I mean, aside from, this is kind of, it's Beast oriented, I believe. Yeah, it gives all your other Beast cards 30% damage. Sorry, so you should be running it in your Hogger cycle and stuff, I suppose, and your Merc guy. But if you are running a Beast deck, there's no reason you should not take this. This is crazy. 30% extra damage for every Beast card that he's nearby is just a flat 30% damage for 3 on all of your cards. Like, that's absolutely crazy. That's probably one of the strongest talents in the entire game. I'm not even being dramatic. Like, probably the strongest in the entire game. But it only fits Beast, so that would probably be why. So I have written down here actually that both other talents are great options if you aren't running a Beast deck. The other 2 options are fantastic. I know it's got the Prowl, like the stealth, and I can't recall what the other one is, but I did all this research beforehand. Apparently I thought it was good. So the decks that this is going to run in, it's going to run in almost any deck that would run Gnoll Brute. You can play it basically in the same place, in place of or with. Also in place of Ghoul. It's basically the same thing because it's got a lot of flat HP and good damage. Thalmos control, any Baron deck, Grom, Karen decks, Tyrion midrange. Like, those are a few options. I'm sure there's some other ones you can slip it into. But fantastic card. Another really strong one coming out of Beast. I also have written down here Murkeye Swarm if you're heavy Beast as well. Because if you're going to take Pack Leader, you got a heavy Beast Murkeye Swarm. Why not? Extra damage, right? It's already such an oppressive deck. I think it's definitely in the meta, so I wouldn't say it's like ridiculous, but I mean it can be pretty hard to deal with. Next up on the list, we have Quilboar. I actually really like this card. It's an elemental resistant 2-drop Unbound. This is probably one of the cheaper and most gold efficient Unbound cards. I think Unbound as a deck sucks. Everybody knows I dislike Unbound. I don't think it's good. And I think a lot of the reason it's not good is a lot of their cards, because they are Unbound, are exceptionally expensive. Think Skeleton Party and stuff. It's like 4 gold for realistically 5 little skeletons just because they're Unbound. Sorry, I got a low power mode here. But Quilboar is notably probably the most gold efficient Unbound card there is. He costs 2. He's very tanky. He has good high health. He's resistant to elemental, and yeah, you can just place him anywhere. He like semi-tanks towers for 2. Yeah, just an all-around good card. He basically works like skeletons, but his deploy time is really, really slow, but we're going to discuss that in a moment. That's so us discussing that in a moment is now. Sorry, I'm just like reading the show notes as we go. The only real option you're going to want to take is called tunnel vision, and it's going to remove that really slow deploy, making it more on par with skeletons, easier to use, and like less easy for your opponent to know that that's what you're doing, right? It's harder for them to react, which is, it doesn't sound super important, but taking your opponent off guard and having them focus on 100 things at once is actually very important in PvP. As marginal as it does sound, it does play a big role. The poison, sorry, we're going to get into the talents here, but the tunnel vision is the one you want. The poison is okay, but most decks who play Quilboar aren't going to place Quilboar on enemy troops or near enemy troops, so you're not actually going to get full effect of that poison unless you're popping them up as a tank or defend your tower or something, but that's not how, in my opinion, you should be using this card. We're going to go over some of the decks that he runs. Basically, most decks that you would run skeletons in, you can run Quilboars in. Basically, this card is mandatory for the Maiev Unbound because it's like one of the best Unbound card decks in the game. She needs Unbound to even be relevant. That's the whole deck, is she needs Unbound cards. And Quilboar is certainly your best option. Some other decks would include Murkeye Swarm, Grom Bloodlust, Bruiser Cairn, Baron Swarm, and without saying, it's going to fit into Hogger Cycle and Strawga decks. So that's that one. Quilboar down, pretty relatively easy. But yeah, this is just a very solid card. 2-drop is very cheap, so like, my goodness, look how long my hair is getting. I guess you guys didn't know what it looked like before today, but like, I'm like next level homeless hair. I could pull off that emo guy look. Life is pain, you know, that kind of thing. I'm sorry, I'm tired, I'm ridiculous. So next up on the list is Raptors. I love this card. I think it's spectacular. It's one of Beast's strongest. I use it in my Murkeye Swarm deck. I can't say enough about this card. It is awesome card. It can drop for 1. It's like Arcane Blast, where it can drop for 1 and then 2 and then 3. It stays in your hand until you deselect it. It is fantastic. If you ever need to swarm something and your Murlocs aren't enough and you want to use something else, Raptors are a fantastic option. My God, do they do some outrageous damage, and that's because of the talent that you take on this card. I've been playing around with it. I got it knowing it would be good. In practice and in play, holy moly, I was blown out of the water by this talent. It is so much stronger. So much stronger than I expected. And that talent is called Strength in Numbers. That's the one. I always forget the names, sorry. Basically, for every Raptor nearby, you're going to get a 10% damage increase on your Raptors. But that scales exponentially, because when you use it for 1, you drop 1 Raptor, for 2, 2, 3 for 3. You can have like 5, 6 Raptors. That's like 50% damage when they're all together like that. It is absurd how much damage that these cards can do. So there is almost no other talent that you should be taking on Raptors except for Strength in Numbers. In my opinion, it is the only talent you should be taking. Decks that Raptors run in, sadly, not a lot of decks. I'm sure it could probably fit into decks. I think people haven't really come to realize the power of this card. There haven't been a lot of tests with it, so people haven't been using it very much. I hardly see it. I think I'm like one of the only people I've seen running it. Strangely enough, I think it's fantastic. What I have written here, the only decks aside from the obvious 2, we're not going to be talking about. I know I keep mentioning it, but I don't want to talk about Hogger Cycle and what's her name anymore, but they're good in those decks, obviously. It's gonna, other than that, it's only gonna run in like Murkeye Swarm, and Grom Bloodlust, and super, super, super rarely in Baron Rivendare Swarm. You're never going to see it in Baron Rivendare Swarm. I think I've played like one guy who ran it, and it was very good. So that's why I mentioned it here. But Murkai Swarm, 100%. And Grom Bloodlust, because when you Bloodlust that many Raptors doing that much damage, it's absolutely hysterical. The damage is crazy. Nothing can trade into it because it's like 5 targets with a reasonable amount of health. So next up, well, that's it for Raptors. Next up is Spiderlings. I have like minimal notes for this card. Sorry, Spiderlings suck. If you're running Spiderlings, delete them. Get rid of them. That card is awful.
Speaking of Spiderlings, that's like the biggest goddamn spooter I've ever seen in my life. Look how terrifying this thing is. My god. Oh, careful. He's got bloodlust. Ah, Grom's kicking around. Careful. You know, don't leave yet. I haven't told you that you should take Frostbite to slow your opponents. You know what? Bad card. Needs a nerf.
It's basically bad chickens and slightly cheaper bad Harpies. It's good into tank units. That's about all it's good for, is killing tanks because of that poison, that stacking poison damage, obliterating armored targets. Like it'll smoke Molten Giant. That's all this card is good for. If you decide to run the mini, I would suggest Frostbite for the slow, or Envenom for the extra poison damage to tanks. But the card sucks. The card sucks, and it needs a buff. I don't think it's good at all, and you shouldn't be running it. That's my opinion. Even in the 2 decks, those are the only decks that I can think of that would make use of this card realistically. And even in those 2 obvious beast decks in Hogger and what's her name, it's just not going to be good. I'm sorry. It is what it is. Screw the Spiderlings. They suck. Spiders are gross. And it's actually pretty quick so far. We're on to the last card for Beast, and that is Vultures. Vultures is a really unique card that's seeing almost no play. I haven't done much testing with it because mine's supremely underleveled. But researching and watching some other players try and use this card, it's pretty interesting. It's pretty easy to take advantage of. You can kill it with a zap, or not a zap, a chain lightning. But basically, it's 2 really garbage vultures. But they only cost 1 gold, which is crazy cheap and fantastic for cycle decks. Think Baron Rivendare control, where I myself like to use Smoke Bomb, because Smoke Bomb is only 1 gold. You misplay your Smoke Bomb, who cares, right? Like you're 1 gold down, but the use of the Smoke Bomb when it works is fantastic. I think Vultures has a similar playstyle to that, and I don't think anybody's figured it out yet. What Vultures do is when you kill something with the Vulture, and you might not know this because not a lot of people are playing Vultures. When you kill something with a Vulture, the thing that the Vulture killed turns into another Vulture. So if you could imagine some opponent drops chickens, your Vultures turn all of those chickens into Vultures. Don't ask me the science of how that works, how a Vulture can turn a chicken into a Vulture, or like an abomination into a Vulture, but that's what they do. You can see it snowballing like really hard. I could see this card getting out of control fast. The weakness is it's obviously going to die to Chain Lightning, but there is one workaround to that, which we'll discuss in the talents. Scrolling down here, the talents you want to take for these bald birdos is Feeding Frenzy. This is not the one I'm talking about where it could have the possibility for some cool play. I haven't tested it, obviously. But Feeding Frenzy, looking at the statistics, it's going to be your best option. It's Feeding Frenzy, I believe, when you kill them. I don't have it written down. I don't know why I didn't write it down. I'm 99% sure. Don't take my word for this entirely. You might have to Google it. I know this is a research video for information. I'm 99% sure when you kill something with the Vultures, it gives all your Vultures bloodlust for a couple of seconds. I'm almost 100% sure that that's what Feeding Frenzy does. I'm sorry, I didn't write it down. I must have been sleepy. I am quite sleepy. But if you have a bunch of bloodlusting Vultures that are going to scale into more and more and more Vultures, I could see the chance for that to exponentially snowball into a free tower, into some sick trades for like literally 1 gold. So for that 1 gold, it could really become something. I could see this card. It's just very interesting to talk about. I could see it being used seriously. The one that I was contemplating, and the one I want to discuss here is, Migration, it's called. So basically, when you get a new Vulture with your Vulture, Migration makes them spawn at your base. You don't get the Bloodlust and the bonus DPS on it, so it may not be as good. But having the Vultures spawn at your base means you can play them for 1 and continuously have Vultures playing, because they're maybe killing random stuff on the map, and they cannot be murdered with Chain Lightning. They just become an annoyance because they're all over the map. I think Migration could have some use. People are going to have to really test Vultures. You test it, you let me know if you like the card. I don't think I would ever invest seriously in it, because you do run the risk that this card does suck. But for 1 gold, can't really go wrong. Let's go read what I wrote for decks, because this is a strange card. I have written in here that it could work for Blackhand Flying as a flying unit, but you're going to have to replace Harpies. You're going to have to replace Whelp Eggs even to get this card in there, and I do not think that this card, I mean, maybe it's good. I personally don't know, but I can't see it being better than Whelp Eggs, and I can't see it being better than Harpies. I don't think it's worth fitting into Blackhand Flyer. I could see this working in some Murkeye Swarm, perhaps, but that's all I've really come to think of. And obviously, maybe you could try it out in Hawker. Maybe there's some cool, wacky build with Razor Flank. I still think she sucks. But the opportunity to change your whole build to cost 1 because you have a cyclable Vultures in there could make her pretty cool. Who knows? Maybe it works. Somebody's going to have to give it a shot. Overall, Beast faction is pretty spectacular. It's a good faction. It seems more built around having cards that could fit all over the place, while simultaneously having decks that are built to be specifically designed for just Beast decks, which I think is very cool. I do like Beast. I think it's neat. I don't know if it's better than Undead, but I do like it. I think it's cool. Hogger is fantastic right now, so obviously there's something to Beast. I think people just have to play around and test with mix matching Beasts, go Beast Horde, go Beast Alliance or something, and see if we can find something really cool that works. It's all about experimenting. The game's so fresh and new. Somebody's bound to find something unbelievably broken in the near future, so maybe it's Vultures, who knows? Maybe it's something in Beast. But I'd like to thank you guys again for stopping by and watching this video. I hope you picked something out of it. I'm sorry I'm so tired. I hope I got through it all okay, making some sense. But I really appreciate you guys watching the videos. I hope it was informative and you had a good time. I'm probably playing some background video of my Murloc Swarm for you to enjoy. This is one of the only serious Beast decks I've built so far, because I'm still missing Hogger. God, I want him bad because he's actually super good. But thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a good one. I'm going to try and get out the rest of these. I'm going to try and get out the rest of these cards. Oh, I almost forgot. I got to move my phone because it's in the show notes. I'm scooching over. I forgot. We're going to discuss... Oh my goodness, I almost missed it. After half an hour talking, I almost missed it. We're going to discuss the ones that you want to take and you don't want to take. Jeez. Anyways, real fast. I know I'm saying my goodbyes. I'm ready to get out of here so I can go to sleep. If you're gonna spend your also important gold on the grid on any of these Beast cards, the ones I recommend you take are Gnoll Brute, Harpies, and Prowler. Gnoll Brute, Harpies, and Prowler are the 3 beast cards that can fit into a lot of decks. You're not going to regret building them. I'd say they're probably the 3 strongest out of beast faction. Worth investing in if you want to seriously build a beast card. Next, we also have the cards that you don't want to invest in. Not necessarily because they're bad, but because they're nuanced, they're niche, nobody knows if they're going to work. And the cards that do work, maybe they only fit in one deck. And that's going to be the Vultures that we discussed not too long ago. Being so questionable and not knowing really where it'll fit in the deck is a reason why you wouldn't want to make a huge investment in your gold on this card, as well as Polymorph, because Polymorph realistically only has 2 decks. They're very solid decks, but you're not going to get a lot of use out of the card, so you want to stick to those other 3 I mentioned. So now I'm ready to say my goodbyes. Thanks again for watching, guys. This is Ziona out, ready for bed, and keep on rumbling.